Welcome to the Tennis.com podcast. I'm your host, as always, Nina Pantic, and joined by Irina Falcone.
Hey guys, how's it going?
This episode is awesome. We have special guest Tennys Sandgren. Just like Genie Bouchard last week, I interviewed him at World Team Tennis. And it's, for those who have watched it on YouTube or Facebook, only the player is in the video. So sorry if that's weird, but that's just the way social distancing is these days. I thought he was a great interview. We talked about his career, his highlights, his Australian Open breakthrough, him winning a title in Auckland, what that meant to him. There's kind of a bit of a pros and cons there to that. Talked about World Team Tennis, which is setting him up for the rest of this season. He's gotten a wild card into Cincinnati, and he's playing the U.S. Open. One of the biggest takeaways from the interview with Tennys Sandgren is his relationship with the media is understandably strained, especially because of how things went down at 2018 Australian Open when he made his breakthrough. He's also kind of a quintessential grinder on tour, a journeyman, or used to be. He's only 29 now. Breakthrough was when he was like 26. But I thought the fact that he said winning Auckland was only fun for like 5 minutes was interesting. Irina, your take on that?
It's such a common theme, especially in tennis, because the turnaround between tournament to tournament is so quick. You don't have like a week or 2 weeks or a month like some sports allow you to just have that rest time and enjoy that championship. In tennis, no pun intended, in tennis, like you just literally go from week to week, from country to country, from city to city, to tournament. And so for him, I think he had to actually play the very next day after his win. So talk about like, all right, let's celebrate, maybe have like a glass of wine, maybe a little champagne toast, but then it's like back to the grind. So I totally I get it. But I will say that I love the fact that he bought himself an awesome truck after. So he really did treat himself. And that's the one thing that I know a lot of players struggle with doing. Like, hey, acknowledge that I did something good here. So I thought that was awesome.
And for me, the biggest takeaway, or like one of the main takeaways from this interview, is that he thinks of himself as toxic. He doesn't have any sponsors. And that's really hard to hear from someone that I understand to be super likable from other players. I've never had a bad interaction with him. I've never heard of a bad interaction with him. And how toxic can you really be, though, if you got a wild card into Cincinnati? So that's exciting. Irina, what's your take of the fact that Cincinnati is going to be played at the U.S. Open site in New York?
Honestly, I'm blown away of the fact that not only is U.S. Open happening, but they're going to have another tournament happening. In some cases, I think it's going to be great for players because you're going to feel adjusted. You're going to be used to the environment. And so I think it's going to be great for the city of New York. I think it's awesome that the USTA and WTA and ATP have actually gotten together and are able to come to terms with hosting two huge events during, global pandemic, no big deal. So I think it's going to be great in a lot of senses, but it's going to definitely be weird.
I hope it all goes really well for everyone, especially for tennis. Like I said, he's got a wild card, which means a lot given the fact that he's ranked 55 and needs a wild card to get in. So just the standard of the tournament is really high. So anyway, let's jump right into the interview with Tennys Sandgren, get to know him a little bit, his backstory, how he got into tennis. His name obviously comes up. Why wouldn't it? Let's get right into that interview. All right, Tennys Sandgren, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Nina. Thank you.
We're here at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. How has your experience been so far with World Team Tennis?
It's been great, honestly, to get out of the house and compete and play tennis and do what I love to do and be around people to a degree, which is nice, and just enjoy playing on the court and being in that team environment.
Does it feel unusual and strange now to be playing back-to-back matches with some kind of level of consistency and structure?
Yeah, remembering what it's like to feel hurt after like 3 or 4 or 5 days of playing in a row, and some of the older injuries that just overuse stuff that starts popping up. It's like, oh yeah, I remember you. You haven't been there in the last few months, but you're back. It's nice to see you again. Sore Achilles or sore shoulder. There you are. So that's kind of just feels more familiar than not, to be honest. But it's nice to get in a rhythm actually, and like play a bunch of points and feel like you're like finding your feet. The level's been pretty good thus far.
And having some kind of level of structure of like, the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks of this season, you're playing tennis and it's going to count for something.
Right. Right, exactly. Which feels familiar versus you got 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months ahead of you and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll just practice some, I guess. I don't know. It's nice to have that sort of structure where that hasn't been the case for the last little while.
When the shutdown happened, where were you? Were you at Indian Wells or at home? And how did you react to it? Because initially, I know for me, I didn't think it was going to be very long.
I was in Indian Wells, I guess, when things started canceling. I thought that things were going to get canceled for a little while immediately, and I was a little frustrated. I remember Miami was like, tournament's going on per usual right after Indian Wells canceled, and I was thinking, no, it's definitely not. So it's kind of bizarre, and I don't think anybody really knew how to plan or what the deal was going to be. I don't think anybody who was alive has lived through a pandemic thus far, so it's all new for people. I handled it well. I thought about buying a bike and just biking home from California to Tennessee. It crossed my mind to actually do it. So I was like, I have nothing to do for the next 2 months. I knew it immediately, like within the first day of it canceling. I'm like, what am I going to do for the next forever? So I thought about doing that, and I didn't, because that would have been crazy for me. But
where'd you put your bags?
I was going to ship them.
And you're going to buy a bicycle and bike home.
Yeah, I looked at the bicycle place and everything. I didn't do it.
Do you bike a lot in normal life?
Sure don't.
Okay.
Sure don't. Just sounded like a fun thing to try.
But you can try all kinds of stuff knowing at that point you probably didn't know it was going to be 4 months, but did you try anything else new that was different for you that maybe is out of character when you're usually on tour grinding?
No, I didn't try anything different, to be honest.
You just got better at drums a little bit and then stopped.
The smallest margin better at drums, and basically stayed the same in everything else, and just did different activities until I could go to sleep, and then I'd wake up and I'd do the same days.
Did you feel any like nervousness or anxiety about like when you're going to get back, or did you kind of enjoy having a little bit of a break?
I would not use the word enjoy. Also didn't really have anxiety about when we were going to get back. It's just like, I don't know, just filling days. It's difficult because you can't plan anything. You can't be like, okay, well, I can't play tennis, but I'm going to go do, XYZ to have another purpose in life to go do something. It's like you feel kind of purposeless because there's nothing to really accomplish during the fact that everything's shut down. It's like, well, what do you do? And maybe got a glimpse of what it'd be like to retire. You just enjoy, like when you're like 60 and you retire, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? I don't know.
Like, you're going to play tennis till you're 60?
No. I just retire from working. We're assuming that, or you're making the assumption that I'm going to make enough money in tennis that I can just retire in general. Yeah. Like at 34, I'm just going to be like, all right, I'm good. I don't have to work anymore.
Is that the plan? I guess, yeah, that would be the dream.
I mean, I would still do something regardless. Even if I had all of King Midas's silver, I would still have to do something to fill your time somehow.
That's true. At least that's what we've learned in the past 4 months.
I already knew this. I'm not gonna give quarantine the satisfaction of teaching me that lesson. I knew that one before, but just that part of it was the hardest part. Just like, how can I fill my days and feel like I'm being productive?
Have you thought about what you would do if you did retire, or when you do retire at 34?
I've thought about it. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I've thought about going back to school, coaching. I don't know. We'll see. So it kind of depends how my career ends up, to be honest.
It seems to be going pretty well.
More doors will be open to me to do different stuff if I win more matches. And less doors will be open if I lose more matches. It's funny. That's just how it works. So
I feel like you've already kind of established yourself, though. I mean, as the tour shut down, stopped the rankings, you're like 55. I mean, it's up there. Do you feel like you've established yourself? Yeah, but if I win a slam or something, that would change
what I would do. So, I don't know. Just kind of we'll see how things play out.
Do you feel comfortable as a top 100, top 60 player yet, or does that never really happen to players where you're like, okay, I'm good?
Yeah, I mean, comfortable as in like a satisfaction comfortable, or just like
it's confident normal? Maybe is the word I'm going for.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I feel like I should be there, and I feel like I can be higher than that for sure. I feel like I can do better. I had like 4 or 5 months after Australia where I had no points to defend. At 55, I felt pretty good about, making another push. Didn't get the opportunity, but, we'll see.
So you mentioned school. You went for 1 year, 2 years at Tennessee?
Semesters.
3 semesters. And did you go into that school experience thinking I'm probably going to turn pro in the middle of this? Or did you want to go
I was
pro
thinking
before?
about turning pro.
After my first semester, but I just wasn't very good. So then I went back to school and played and still wasn't very good. And then won a few futures in the summer and was like, all right, if I had done that before I went to school, I would have just turned pro. So I'll just turn pro now, I guess. And yeah, I mean, it's not like I thought that I had made it or something. I was like 500 in the world. I knew I was nowhere, but I felt like I was at least good enough to maybe get through that and win more matches and get better.
When's the first time you realized like I've made it out of that step of like it being this grind and no fans and no trainers and no money? When's the jump?
Probably when I got into the U.S. Open for the first time on my own ranking. I think yeah, was when I was like, okay, I think if I can keep playing well and stay healthy, I can stay here at least. I think I can get into these at least slam main draws and some tour event main draws and qualities of the larger Masters events and things like that. And I was like, well, that's a lot better than where I've been. So I think if I can sustain that, then that would be great. And then I've done better than that. So it was interesting trying to think about what to do after I got inside of 100. That was always my goal, was to get inside of 100. So it took 6 years to do that for me. It was like, what do I do now? What do you do? Do I just move the marker to 50? Like, can I do that? Am I good enough? I just don't know. So it was interesting to kind of see, okay, where do I set my goals now?
Did you change the goals then? Surely you have.
Yeah, I mean, at this point I have. It took a while though. I never knew if I was good enough to be better than that. So it's hard to set a goal if you don't know if it's even remotely realistic or not.
Have you ever asked your parents if they? I mean, I know it was after a grandfather, or it's a family name. I mean, that's sweet. But have you ever asked your parents, like, what were you thinking here? And then did they intentionally be like, he should play tennis, or was that just like a natural?
Well, they both played. And it's in the family. And the name wasn't related to the sport, but they liked it and pulled the trigger, I guess. They went for it. Full send.
And here we are. Okay. So looking ahead now, you've established yourself, number 55, going into what should be the reopen. Have you put some thought into how life will look after World Team Tennis? I've
thought about it, and I don't know. Got this sense of dread that nothing's going to be played. We'll see.
I don't see how it's going to play out either, but let's say hypothetically.
I don't know.
I mean, things are all right now, but that could change. And it's hard to move in between Italy and Spain into France. All it takes is a little outbreak and things start shutting down again. And I don't know.
Are you prepared for going back to sitting at home and waiting it out and working out?
Yeah, I don't care, to be honest. I mean, it would suck, but like, what are you going to do?
You seem to have a good attitude about it. I
don't feel like I have a good attitude about it. I got to be honest with you.
I feel like you're letting things happen as they are, and you're not upset about it or stressed.
No, I'm not stressing about it because I have zero control over it. And if there's something to play, I'll go play. But if there's not, then I don't know. I've been working with the trainer up in Columbus, so I'll probably just go up there and work out there for a while.
Do you have a full-time coach too right now?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that, Michael Russell, but I haven't seen him since in Wells, so.
Hey guys, today we have ATP star Tennys Sandgren telling us the moment he thought he made it on the ATP tour. Keep listening.
All right, so I want to ask you about Auckland. Title win. That was a milestone, we could say. Was there anything different when you went into that week? Did you feel different, or was it just more like things kind of lined up for you and it worked out? How would you explain it?
I trained really hard in the off season.
I put a lot of time and effort into training and just being super professional, super strict on my diet and things like that. And just everything I was doing was geared towards trying to start the year well, because I had the quarters from Australia coming off and my career was going to get nuked if I didn't defend any of the points. So I'm like, well, now's the time to, put in full effort. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There's nothing to do about it, but at least put myself in a position to. And I like Auckland. It's good vibes there. It's nice. So got over there, felt pretty good. Had a good friend of mine that was coaching me. Went with me, and it just kind of clicked and played well from the get-go. I thought there were some guys there that weren't that ready yet to play. If that makes sense. Like I felt like I was more prepared than a lot of the guys that were in the draw. So I just started strong and was serving well, and things worked out. And I remember the semis, I played a joke well. I played Cole Schreiber, who's a much better tennis player than I am, and I got out of a love 40 service game in the first game of the match. I was super tight, and after that, I played the best match I think I've ever played. And then the finals was against Cam, whom I had lost to maybe the last 4 times we had played, and just played well. It was great.
How long does the happiness last after winning a title like that? You went into Australia, right?
It was a lot of fun till the next morning when I got on a plane at 6 a.m. and flew to Melbourne and played the following afternoon. That wasn't much fun. Yeah, but brutal.
But still great.
Brutal in a perfectly fine way. Yeah. You know, I was still really happy to win the title, and I got my truck to celebrate that one. I don't really celebrate stuff like that, but I was like, you know what? Probably should
buy a giant truck.
I was thinking, what? I'm not really a car guy, but I'm like, big truck would be nice. Tennessee, Nashville.
Yep.
Come on, what am I going to do?
Buy a big truck.
I had to buy the truck.
All right, so then before that, you mentioned you're defending Australian Open points. That was 2018, you made the quarterfinals. I think that's probably when most people would say that was your breakthrough. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, for sure. That was a moment where people were like, maybe he can play tennis. I was thinking, maybe I can play tennis. I don't know. Seems like it. Then the rest of the year was tough. I had an arm injury I had arm injury going into the tournament, but it just kept getting worse and worse. And I had to take a lot of the summer off, so I couldn't swing the racket. And it got better. It got better enough that by the fall I was playing all right and could then train going into the 2019 season. But it was tough because I was playing really well, but my arm was torched. So a lot of tennis to try to get my ranking up enough to get in Australia.
You've had a ton of injuries, so yeah.
Some, hip surgery, just that arm thing sucked. Nothing other than hip surgery, nothing major outside that, but always getting banged up. I don't know, I play kind of physical, and I'm a bigger guy that runs around the court maybe a little too much and moves kind of hard. So it's not an easy way to play. It's not light on my body at all.
Was it frustrating how all of the off-court stuff kind of ruined or took away from the on-court stuff?
It sucked that I didn't really get a good shot at that quarterfinal match. I was exhausted. So tired going into that match. I was already tired just from the tennis part, but the other stuff was just way too much to try to deal with, to feel good going into that match. And played fine. I played okay. I thought I could have won that match, especially seeing the fact that he had a crater-sized blister on his foot. That if I could have won a set, one of the first 2 sets, I feel like I could have just run away with the match because he was, fighting through some pain. After the next 2 weeks, I just stayed in my house and just slept for a lot. I didn't do anything. I was exhausted, just tiring, stressful. When I don't know, it's all a facade anyway. None of it's real. There's no interaction. There's no human interaction. There's no all of my personal interactions were all great. I had no issues with any of my relationships with people, and yet I'm in the situation where I'm in an unwinnable situation. There's nothing I can do about it. It's it's just exhausting, really. There's something, like I said, it's just not reality.
I think right now in the current climate, there's so much of this cancel culture going on. So I think it's easy to compare what happened then to that.
Mm-hmm.
just ridiculousness.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of it going around. I don't know. There's many examples, and everyone has its own distinct texture and circumstance. So while they're comparable, they're not all the same, obviously. So, but just a lot of them are just like, I don't know, this ever-changing standard that everything is looked through the lens of what is deemed appropriate now. And even something that was okay 3 years ago is not okay today. So if we continue to do that, then nothing will be okay. So nobody feels like they can say anything that's on their mind. But that's a very sterile world to live in. It's kind of boring. It's not really much fun, and certainly isn't very funny. Comedians have to really watch what they say. I don't know, we tried to cancel Kevin Hart last year. I mean, it's an amazing thing. If we keep looking at everything through the lens of right now and judge everything that's ever been said, then yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't know how that changes, other than maybe people just get sick of it and they're like, look, whatever. You know, it would be nice to have some personality again in the world. And we'll take the good with the bad and just move on with our lives. And if we don't like somebody, we just won't listen to what they have to say. It's not that hard, I feel like.
Do you feel like you were misunderstood, or you aren't? Because as far as I know, and I don't really know you well, but I feel like you're a very likable guy, and everyone on tour likes you. So do you feel like that you just seem misunderstood in the public eye, and then it's just gotta let it go?
I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm not particularly misunderstood, to be honest. Most people that know me, either from a few interactions online, or people that know me from tournaments and friends and whatnot, like, I feel like have a good view of my person, I guess. But there's some of these people on the internet that, look, if I'm gonna write something about tennis and you're gonna talk politics like that, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I haven't said anything in years.
I feel like you've come back though, you mentioned Twitter and how you can't say anything funny and you can't say anything being afraid of offending people, but you've come back. I feel like especially the past maybe like a year, you've been back on there.
It's a fine line to say something funny without really offending anybody. I feel like I've done it a couple times at least. But yeah, I mean, some of my tweets have been funny, self-deprecating. It's still like, I don't know. Levity is still very important, I think. We're all very serious, and some of these things that are going on are very serious, but I still think you should be able to laugh at certain stuff, and I think that's healthy.
Do you feel like nervous expressing yourself now, or have you moved like, you know what, I'm going to be myself and it's good?
I don't care. So I have no obligations. I have no ties. If I end up saying, I'm not trying to, but if I ended up saying something that was offensive or something like that, or it's like, I have no sponsors. I buy my clothes and I buy my string. It's like, Wilson sends me rackets, which I'm very happy about, but like, what's going to happen? What, I'm going to buy my shoes more? Like what's going to happen? Like, I'm going to play tennis and that's that. Like, I can't have nothing to lose, so to speak. So
you should definitely have sponsors. You're top 60 in the world.
Very toxic.
No, you're not.
That's the perception.
Still.
Well, it's enough for brands to not want to be interested. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. At that point, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm free to do what I want.
You made the quarterfinals of the Australian Open and played Roger Federer.
Yeah.
That was center stage. That was a global phenomenon in a way. Maybe not the way you probably hoped it went.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I would have loved to have won that match, but promise you that despite your best intentions, life does not work out the way that you would like it to. It just doesn't. So it worked out all right, I guess. It was still a pretty good tournament and played well, and it's a good match and people were entertained. And if that's not enough, then you shouldn't play, because sometimes that's all you get.
Would you say most of your interactions with people are always positive? Yeah.
For sure. The occasional interaction with a ref that isn't. But it's tough out there.
It's entertaining, though.
It's real tough out there. But, yeah, for the most part, I mean, there's nothing else to do. I mean, what are you going to do? Not be like that? Hold grudges? Or, I don't know. It's a much easier way to be when you're chill with people. Why wouldn't you be?
You are very chill. What do you want people to remember you as? If, like, let's say you're like 60 and you've retired and it's like your family or whoever, how do you think you want them to remember Tennys Sandgren?
Just assuming I have a family. That's interesting.
Hypothetically.
My hypothetical family. That's a strange question.
You're welcome.
I don't know. I don't know. Someone who was true to their character, somebody who had morals, somebody who stuck to their word, I would say.
Okay. That's good. I think you're very polite.
Maybe funny on occasion.
Funny and polite.
Occasion. That would be fine too. But like anything else, jokes don't always hit, you know. You throw a bunch out there and some hit, some don't hit, and at least it gets some hit on occasion. So
I hear that a lot. Yeah, that's how I feel about writing as well. I just gotta throw out a bunch of content and hope one of them's all right.
Yeah, that's how it works.
All right, I feel like I've taken up enough of your time.
I mean, I have nothing to do. I gotta be honest, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for joining.
You are quite welcome. Thank you for having me.
From the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, this has been the Tennis.com podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay caught up. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every major listening app, as well as tennis.com/podcasts. You can also see the videos of our episodes on Tennis Channel's YouTube page and Tennis.com's Facebook page. We're your hosts, Nina Pantic and Irina Falcone. We'd like to thank our team, editor and audio designer and video editor Christina Koseva, producers Alexa March and Sean O'Malley, and executive producers Shelby Coleman, Kyle Einhorn, and Andy Chu.